Interpersonal Communication Project. Please afford me the opportunity to begin this presentation by giving you a synopsis of what it entails. First, I will greet you, tell you who I am, and offer a brief introduction. Then, I will identify one of my life's overarching goals and define what enlarging the conversation means to me. Next, I will explain how my background and behavior brand have both positively and negatively influenced my conversation. Further, I will highlight potential barriers to my interpersonal communication and explain how I plan to deal with these issues. Additionally, I will identify and offer some solutions, both internal and external noise pollution. And finally, I will discuss my action plan to make my personal communication goals a reality. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome. My name is Leo A McInnis, and this is my interpersonal communication project for the Human Service Counseling Course 508 at Liberty University. In doing research for my project, 4 textbooks that I use include Jon Stewart's book on Bridges Not Walls, Mel's Carbonell book on how to solve the people puzzle, Madeline Burley Allen's book on listening, the forgotten skill, and James Peterson's book on Why Don't We Listen Better. Personally, I opine that Jon Stewart was right on point when he theorized that interpersonal communications labels the type or kind of communication that happens when the people involved talk and listen in ways that maximize the presence of the person. And by using the exhaling and inhaling metaphor, he emphasized 5 personal features, which includes uniqueness, immeasurability, responsiveness, reflectiveness, and addressability. In addition, Stewart asserted that there were 6 features that applied to all kinds of communication: meaning, choice, culture, identities of self, conversation, and nexus. One of my life's overarching goals is to improve my counseling skill to that of a level 1 listener in order to create an empathetic and culturally sensitive environment by which I can communicate with others with openness and integrity. In addition, I must be able to clarify what was said without agreeing, disagreeing, advising, or defending. As it relates to enlarging the conversation, I first thought that this meant getting more people involved in the discussion. However, after watching the movie Fireproof, I now know that it means establishing and sustaining a respectful and sincere line of communication which affords each person an equal and alternating opportunity to offer his or her perspective, which might result in synergizing everyone's thoughts and ideals into a broader context. Interestingly, a person's background, such as age, race, cultural upbringing, and experiences, would usually affect his worldview of reality. As it relates to my background, please know that I am a 54-year-old African American male who not only had a very humble beginning, but also was raised up in the Jim Crow era. Although I graduated from high school in 1977, I did not really understand or appreciate why getting a quality education was important. Nonetheless, my high school diploma enabled me to join the U.S. Army a year later. I married my hometown girlfriend in 1979 and we had 2 daughters and a son. Unfortunately, we divorced in 1989, and I became a single parent to 2 of our 3 children. 2 years later, I had a 3rd daughter by another hometown girlfriend. Although we broke up shortly thereafter, I established and maintained a very good relationship with my daughter. In fact, she currently lives with us while she is completing her bachelor's degree at the University of Florida. At any rate, I married my current Panamanian wife in 1993, and we have 4 children. I retired from the Army in 2003 after almost 25 years of military service, and we moved to Florida. Consequently, I was rated total and permanently disabled by the Department of Veterans Affairs. Driven by a passion to help others, not only have motivated me to do volunteer tutoring and mentoring at a local community center, but also to earn my master's degree in human service counseling with a future goal of earning my doctorate degree in clinical psychology. According to Miles Carter, a behavior blend refers to the intermingling of an individual DISC personality or temperaments in a distinct pattern which influences the way that he thinks, acts, or feels. Now, in analyzing my own behavior blend, what I found to be particularly interesting is that I can see a correlation between my DISC personality type and my childhood upbringing. For example, 2 negative effects of racial segregation include internalized feelings of inferiority and submissiveness. According to my uniquely you personality profile, I have a CIS personality type from both a public and an individual perspective, and I scored 88 out of 100 on the skills test. Accordingly, I am an extremely adept at interpreting other people's words and actions, as well as seeing things from their perspective. I also realize that empathy is an essential part of good interpersonal skills, and therefore would do my best to place myself in others' shoes in order to better understand them. Simply said, I get a real satisfaction out of serving others. On the other hand, I try to be many things to many people, as well as not very demanding or decisive. In addition, I tend to be a little shy and cautious, thinking too much and not willing to take many risks. Also, I may rub some people the wrong way with my critical and fault-finding attitude. Thus, I need to improve upon my indecisiveness and my need to please others. With regards to potential barriers to the interpersonal context, Burley Adam asserted that one of the challenges that transpire between the listener and the speaker is disregarding a person who is speaking from a conflicting point of view. Likewise, a potential barrier for me usually occurs if someone pushes one of my hot buttons, which may cause me to engage in closed-minded listening and to filter what is said based on my values and past experience. Notwithstanding, another barrier that I am very guilty of is being an intellectual or logical listener, whereas I incline to sometimes neglect the emotional and nonverbal aspects of the speaker's behavior. Thus, I must be able to develop strategies for dealing with these issues. In other words, when I am confronted with an opposing point of view, I should simply say, I hear you, and I have a different perspective. In other words, I can take a sincere interest in his point of view and yet not feel threatened in keeping my own. Likewise, if someone pushes one of my hot buttons, I must remain vigilant in knowing that how you treat me is your karma. How I respond is mine. Thus, I would aim to respond in the best way that I know how, because having a peace of mind is the area that I function the best. At any rate, a strategy that I must employ in order to stop being an intellectual or logical listener is avoid being blinded by my own emotion and the emotion of others. Now, from what I gather, internal and external are the two types of noise pollution, whereas internal entails being sidetracked by one's own thought and ideals. For example, paying bills, losing a job, death of a friend, etc. On the other hand, I opine that external refers to perceptive things that distract from or interrupt the communication process. For example, loud music, a passing train, a squeaky voice, etc. As it relates to internal solution, I think that engaging in proactive listening, being mindful of the moment at hand, and asking clarifying questions would be very beneficial. Similarly, I opine that possible external solution would be ensuring that my office environment had minimal external noises and limited interruption during my counseling session. Now, in order for me to make my action plan a reality, I will utilize Peterson Talker Listener Card. In addition, I would be attentive to how the flat brain syndrome and the flat brain tango affects others. Moreover, I would strive to become a level 1 listener, whereas not only will I be able to empathize with my clients, but also become more cognizant of the nonverbal cues that both of us send. Simply put, I plan to put aside my own perspective so that I can give my full and undivided attention to listen to my clients as they share their innermost thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and experiences. This concludes my interpersonal communication project. In the words of Mel Carbonell, understanding personality patterns is one of the keys to improving your relationship and solving the people puzzle. Thank you for taking the time to view my video presentation, and I truly hope that you have a blessed day.